I do want to watch this David video. This video right here.
Yeah, you know, police say they now consider the singer.
So as y'all know, we watched a video a while back, probably like 2 months ago or something like that, about David, the singer. He has some beautiful music, I'm not gonna lie. I haven't really heard much about it, so that's why I want to watch this video, see what that's about.
You're a suspect in her death and say they have better information about when.
David was that singer who had the Tesla that had the little girl, like body parts chopped up in the front of his Tesla.
She may have died.
Now, the new David, spelled D4VD, developments change everything. And I don't say that lightly, because according to sources with direct knowledge of the investigation, this case has now gone to a much deeper place.
I will say what I did hear was it wasn't even David. It was one of his managers that did this shit.
Where it started. We first talked about the David story, spelled D4VD, back on September 10th, when all we had were headlines, confusion, and a single breaking news alert about a body found inside an impounded Tesla. Back then, nobody obviously understood the timeline, nobody knew who the victim was, and the entire situation felt like one giant question mark, especially because the name tied to that car belonged to a popular young singer nobody expected to see, connected to something like this. Since then, a lot has been said, a lot has been assumed, and this has become one of the most confusing and emotionally charged stories I've personally covered on this channel, that's for sure. And of course, it involves a 14-year-old girl who lost her life.
Damn, she was 14? I thought she was 15.
Now, my last video on this case, a little over 3 weeks ago, I told you that I'd keep you updated the moment anything significant developed. And today I'm here to deliver that promise.
What does this nigga have on,
to
bro?
Explain why these new details are so significant and how they completely shift the timeline and direction of this investigation. So, let's get into it. Now, the first major thing we're going to talk about is that David has now been identified by investigators as a suspect in this case. And here's the thing, right? This is not an official stamp because they do need probable cause with the help of all the evidence in order to do that on the record. And
why this nigga got a damn candle with him?
As of right now. So this does not mean that they have enough on David as of today to make an arrest. That's not where things are yet. But it does mean that detectives no longer see him as just someone connected to the car or a person they might want to question later. David is now considered a suspect, and this is pretty major. Up until now, most of the noise around this story came from commentators, journalists, and the internet trying to make sense of what happened. But when that confirmation comes from
I ain't gonna lie, I feel like
that's very.
I personally feel like it was kind of crazy how like literally the entire world was on this nigga ass. When I tell you like the entire internet was detectives, and then like this shit just all of a sudden just disappeared. Like I don't hear nothing about this no more because this is what my TikTok was full of. Twitter, everything was full of this, but I don't really be hearing shit about it no more. That shit is weird.
Different, that carries weight. So what does that actually mean? It means investigators are no longer treating him as someone who just happens to be tied to a vehicle where the body was found. Yes, the Tesla was registered to David the whole time, but that alone doesn't automatically make someone a suspect. And in David's situation, that detail becomes even more complicated because with the level he was operating at, the management, the team around him, the people coming in and out of the places he stayed, we know that there were multiple individuals who potentially had access to his cars.
Nigga, David don't fucking look like me, nigga.
Belongings. So investigators had to look deeper. People lend cars out, people borrow things, people come and go, and detectives obviously know that. They needed more than a registration to take the next step. Now, it does not mean that they've reached a conclusion. It does not mean he's guilty, and it does not mean an arrest is guaranteed or around the corner. But it does mean the investigation has now moved into a different phase. And according to sources with direct knowledge of the case, this wasn't something that happened overnight. Detectives have been working quietly behind the scenes for weeks, interviewing people close to the situation, cross-checking timelines, examining digital information, reviewing physical evidence.
I know for a fact that Netflix is going to make a movie out of this shit. Somebody's going to make a movie out of this shit, and that bitch is going to be very fucking popular because this shit sounds crazy. This would, I apologize if it's ignorant to say, but this would be a good movie. I know it's ignorant to say, but I feel like it would be a good movie.
Like they had enough to place him in that category. And when you look back at how this entire story began, a body discovered inside the front trunk of a Tesla registered to him. This suspect classification becomes one of the most serious developments we've seen since the very beginning. This is the moment where the tone
I hate
of the
to be
investigation
ignorant, but yeah,
shifts.
this bitch would be a good movie.
Increases. And this is when detectives begin focusing in a lot more than
because the way this shit going, bro, piecing all this shit together is
in the trunk of that Tesla on September 8th.
Insane.
And now the source also tells us that pop singer David is being considered a suspect in her death.
Now, connected to the suspect status, there's another major development investigators are focused on right now. Two separate law enforcement sources have
we just gonna put him on timeout. This nigga said, I like my bitch 10 years younger than me. This is crazy to fucking say. This nigga said, I like my bitch 10 years younger than me. Chat, I want y'all to know that best after Jesus is 26 years old. Best after Jesus is 26 years old. This nigga is out of fucking pocket. Alright, best. I'm gonna take you off timeout. But you better chill, nigga. You better chill, nigga. This nigga is out of pocket. Nigga talking about I was hacked. Yeah, alright, buddy.
Do not believe this was a one-person job. According to those sources, investigators think a second individual was involved in the effort to dispose of Celeste's body during the months before she was found inside that Tesla. One source even said confidently that investigators believe that more than one person was involved in the handling of the teen's body in the months before her remains were found in that Tesla.
I ain't gonna lie, this is definitely true. I'm sorry, this nigga's not doing all this shit by himself. I'm sorry, he has too much around him to get away with some shit like this, and nobody else knows about it. He had to have a group of motherfuckers to pull off some shit like this.
Law enforcement sources familiar with the inquiry. So the fact that law enforcement sources are speaking that boldly is pretty crazy to me. So now the focus isn't just on what happened. It's on who else might have played a role in this thing. Who is this other person? A friend? Someone in the circle maybe? Or someone the public doesn't even know exists? As of right now, we don't have those answers.
I respect this nigga, but I hate the filter that he's using.
The second person was involved. That tells you this wasn't one terrible moment or one impulsive decision. It suggests planning. It suggests coordination. It suggests someone else out there is holding secrets and staying quiet, at least for now. Because based on some things that we're going to talk about later on in the video, there are witnesses and even informants already cooperating with
Chad, do y'all like
scenes.
Wear like body jewelry, like watches and shit?
So,
or like rings and or like wristbands and shit?
Connect. Now we're left with some heavy questions. How far does this thing actually extend? Who helped?
I don't know how y'all do it. Like, I can't do it. The only
right about what they're claiming.
The only watch I can wear is my Apple Watch. I can't wear shit else, and I can only wear like this small ass chain. I cannot wear no other shit.
Once detectives have that story lined up, once they connect,
that shit just so uncomfortable.
The timelines and the witness statements, right?
That's like even my Apple Watch. I gotta take that bitch as soon as I get to the crib.
Now, on top of that, there's another major development investigators revealed. It's now been confirmed that David is not cooperating with law enforcement.
What?
When the story first broke back in September, every early report, every headline painted the picture that he was in fact cooperating. And to be fair, it was extremely early in the process. Detectives had just discovered the body. They were still identifying the remains. And everyone
I ain't gonna lie, folks not cooperating is kind of like, you're not cooperating is that's kind of suspect. I think this nigga did that shit. I ain't gonna lie, I think that nigga did that shit.
The information that was being revealed.
He damn near did that shit.
The story was that he had spoken with investigators in some capacity, and he was in fact cooperating. But now we're learning that this is not the case as of right now. According to a LAPD source with direct knowledge of the investigation, the same source who confirmed that he was a suspect, David has not been cooperating with detectives. This information was directly reported to NBC4.
I could see if he's not cooperating in a scenario of
right, because when someone stops cooperating,
not knowing what to say,
as serious as this, it impacts how investigators move forward, how they gather information, and how they interpret.
I would definitely think he did this shit.
It doesn't automatically mean wrongdoing. It doesn't confirm guilt. I want to make that very clear. But in the eyes of the investigators, non-cooperation from someone who is now officially labeled a suspect, that is very significant. And typically when someone steps back from cooperating with investigators, they start viewing that person differently, okay? It's very natural. Because in most cases, if someone is purely, let's say, a witness, they're willing to talk. In most cases, not all cases, but in a lot of cases, if they're just a witness, they're going to speak up, right? But in this case, when cooperation stops, detectives have to consider
I would definitely think he did this shit
may be connected
based off just him just not talking no more.
Of course, we know that David was connected to this in some type of way the whole time. Now, here's what we don't know, okay? We don't know when David stopped cooperating. People stop cooperating for all kinds of reasons. Let's make that clear, okay? Sometimes it's legal advice. Sometimes it's fear of saying the wrong thing. Sometimes
that's kind of what I was thinking. Maybe it's just him trying not to say the wrong thing for real.
Further. And let's be honest.
That's the only thing I could think of.
Trust law enforcement in general. Even if you're completely innocent, if the police starts asking you questions, your guard is gonna go up. That's human nature.
They will
for me personally,
put that shit on you.
If officers approach me in a situation where I, let's say, didn't see anything, didn't know anything about whatever it was that they were talking about, I'd be very cautious too, okay? And a lot of people can definitely relate to that. And another thing to keep in mind is the reality of the music industry. When an artist reaches a certain level, there are a lot of people financially tied to their career. Labels, management, teams, partners. So in situations like this, there's often a lot of legal guidance, a lot of caution, and a lot of protection around what the artist says or doesn't say. That's just how the industry operates. But here's where things take a much stranger turn, because according to investigators, Celeste's death didn't happen anywhere near September. It likely happened months earlier in the spring, and that detail changes everything. According to a law enforcement source who spoke to the LA Times, Celeste may have been dead for months, likely dating all the way back to the spring before her remains were finally discovered in September. And if that's true, think about what that means. It means there's a massive gap in the timeline that nobody publicly knew about. So that in itself raises a whole new set of questions. Where was Celeste during all those months after she disappeared? Who was she around? And how did nobody notice something was terrible?
Why didn't her parents say shit? Why didn't her parents notify authorities hey, my daughter's been gone for months. My daughter's been gone for a very, very long time. Why has nobody said shit? None of her friends said anything. It was a teacher on TikTok who said that he had pictures of Celeste and him. Why did he just now say something? Why didn't he say something out months ago? Why wouldn't he say nothing months ago? What's up, Ezzy? Why the fuck wouldn't he say nothing
for that long?
That's kind of crazy. Yes, nobody is saying anything.
Run away from home multiple times.
Nobody's saying nothing,
which might explain why her absence didn't immediately set off.
I'm sure he's gonna go to jail.
Alarm bells, right? But that's a heartbreaking conversation on its own that we're not gonna go into right now. This spring timeline is one of the biggest twists in the entire investigation because it forces everyone, detectives included, to rethink how this happened. Now let's also address something important. A few days ago, multiple outlets, including Rolling Stone and TMZ, reported that Celeste's body may have been refrigerated or even frozen before being placed inside that Tesla.
What the fuck?
You might have heard about this news, and the reports said that investigators were apparently exploring that freezing theory and that outside forensic experts were being brought in to help understand the condition of the remains. But now we have an official update, and that information has actually been refuted by law enforcement. And LAPD Scott Williams told reporters that the body was not frozen despite what a lot of media outlets had been saying. The LAPD also put up the following statement saying this: the Los Angeles Police Department is aware of the recent stories posted by various media outlets about
if the nigga body, if her body, how is her body not decomposed if they had it for months? Because from spring is, summer don't start till what, June? Spring starts in March, so March, April, May. Between those 3 months, you got June, July, August, September. You got 4 months. How is her body not decomposed in that short amount of time?
Celeste Riva's investigation.
But they just said her body wasn't frozen though.
The body of Celeste Rivas was not frozen when it was discovered on September 8, 2025. She had not been decapitated. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because the freezing theory actually ended up going viral. A lot of people saw it. A lot of people repeated it. And for a lot of folks, it became
I'm about to play
part of
football.
what they thought was the truth about this case. And this is why I want you to be very careful about trusting every single detail you see online about the situation and the story. Guys, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of assumptions, and a lot of headlines that don't really match what investigators are actually saying. And I'm not saying that I'm above ever getting something wrong either. I'm human.
Keep it from decomposing, but not freezing the body though. I get it, but like, don't that seem kind of odd? I guess it would just slow down the process, but I think 4 months is a long ass time. I think 4 months is a long ass time.
If I make a mistake and new information comes out that proves it, I'm always going to come back, point it out, and correct it in front of you, because that's the only way to cover a story like this. It's just the right thing to do. And also, I'm not trying to bullshit you. You get what I'm saying? I have enough respect for you to the point where I'm not going to sit here and lie and make stuff up, and then when I'm wrong, I'm not going to acknowledge it. That's just not how I do things, okay? Now, there's another lead detectives are said to be reviewing, and it points to a location about a 2-hour drive outside of Los Angeles. David's alleged secret trip to Santa Barbara. According to TMZ, who cites a source with knowledge of the investigation, a critical part of the case involves a mysterious trip David allegedly took to a remote area of Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night. Now, I do want to point this out. TMZ uses the phrase last spring, while NBC states in the spring of 2025. So there is a bit of a wording conflict in how different sources describe the timeline. That's something investigators will ultimately clarify as they piece everything together. Personally, I'm going with spring 2025 though, because that's what we know, okay? But that's beside the point. If detectives believe the death occurred in
I ain't gonna lie, when you say like last spring, last summer, I'm gonna assume like the summer that just passed, or like the spring that just passed, like just passed. Whenever you say last something and it just passed, I'm gonna assume you meant that last one, like last Monday. I'm gonna assume you meant like the Monday that just passed, because that was the last Monday.
Which obviously that would make sense. Then any unexplained late night travel to remote areas during that same period becomes something they have to look at closely. Does this trip overlap with the window when Celeste disappeared? We don't know the answers to those questions yet, obviously. We don't know what, if anything, investigators found in that area. And we don't know whether this moment ends up being a crucial part of the timeline or just a coincidence that happened during that same period, allegedly. But what we do know is this: investigators are aware of this trip, allegedly, and it's something that detectives are currently reviewing as they try to understand what really happened. And while all this was unfolding, something unusual happened online. As I was going through the public records like I always do when I cover cases like this, I noticed that the information on the medical examiner's website had actually been completely removed. So there's absolutely no information that you can find about it on the medical examiner's website. Up until this point, no one knew why that happened, but after digging further and reviewing new reports and court filings, now we finally have the answer, and this is the truth about that. The LAPD went to a judge and successfully got a court order to seal everything about this, about this case right here, and specifically in relation to Celeste's autopsy. And when I say everything, I mean everything: cause of death, manner of death, autopsy results, physical evidence, the entire findings, completely locked away, at least for now. And the reasoning here,
I ain't gonna lie, this case is so weird, because like everything just stopped all of a sudden. Like there's no updates on practically any fucking thing, for real. Like I find it crazy that there's no updates on this shit. Like we don't know what's going on with this shit at all. All we know now, well, from the updates he just gave us, but like it's such a big gap in like the amount of shit that's happened versus what we know now. What? The Kanika Jenkins case is now settled. Her family reached a $6 million lawsuit against us. Also was filed after 17. Was this right now? When did they settle on the case? Did they just settle like recently? Because I've been seeing shit about this recently, about her, like her mom saying shit on Facebook and all that shit. I've been seeing her What the fuck? It makes sense though, shit. I mean, but her mom came out tweaking, didn't she? Kanika Jenkins is a girl who was found in a walk-in freezer of a hotel in like Rosemont, right by it was right by O'Hare Airport. So yeah. I was like, hold the fuck, how do you don't know about Kanika Jenkins, nigga? Like, that shit took over the world when that shit happened, bro. But we go get back to the video though.
Gets even more intense.
I'm gonna have to, Alex, if you could find me like a decent, if you could find me a decent video like this that has like about Kanika, like send that bitch to me. We'll watch that bitch at some point.
From the elite robbery,
if not today,
division.
If not today, another day.
That releasing these details could jeopardize the investigation, not just by showing what police already know, but by revealing witnesses and informants, interesting, who are actively helping detectives.
Nigga said, oh, her.
There are people
This nigga, I thought I was ignorant. This nigga ignorant.
Could be at risk if the truth comes out too early. So what looked like a random website update was actually law enforcement tightening their grip on the case. And the judge, his name is Craig Richmond, he agreed. He granted LAPD's request, sealing the entire file. The medical examiner's office literally had to stop releasing information to the public. Every detail locked behind.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't like
protection.
that. I don't like when they do shit like this, because now it seems like y'all hiding shit. Like, this shit is crazy. I don't like that they be doing this type of shit. Because why are y'all removing information? I mean, like, I'm promised somebody's gonna get into that bitch somehow. Somebody's gonna figure some shit out.
It's interesting, okay? Even the chief medical
Somebody
examiner
gonna figure some
himself,
shit out
Dr.
for sure.
Ode Ukpu, who by the way is the first African American to ever lead that office since it was created back in 1850, he publicly pushed back against this decision. And this is what he said.
I would too.
The practice of security holds is virtually unheard of in other counties and has not been proven to improve outcomes in the legal system. We are dedicated to serving our community with full transparency. However, the law precludes us from doing so while the court order remains in this case. And he actually denied LAPD's first attempt back in September 15th, about a week after this entire thing came out, right? Saying they didn't provide enough justification. But now that justification has arrived and that hold is officially in place. And the LAPD, they're not really denying any of this, right? A captain from the department explained why, and this is what he said. Detectives need to receive the information before the public does, so nothing leaks that could compromise what they're building behind the scenes. Now, when police is fighting this hard to control information, it usually means they're doing, or they're, I should say, they're closing in on something or someone they don't want to be tipped off too early, right? And that brings us to another revelation. In these very same court filings, for the first time ever, LAPD officially described this as an investigation into murder. Now, sure, we all assume that from the beginning. I mean, a 14-year-old little girl found dismembered in a truck, in the front of a trunk, I should say. Of course, that's murder, like somebody did that to her, right? But this is the first time law enforcement themselves have put that exact word into the record, right?
Because what those angle lie, that's kind of dumb as hell.
And it's not an accidental situation or anything like that.
That's dumb as hell. Because what the fuck else would it be? It has no choice but to be murder. She didn't do that shit herself. I think it could only be murder.
I think these developments are significant because of what they.
I'm finishing this resume gang off for that. Hey, nah, you take your time. I probably won't even watch it tonight. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm probably gonna make a candy tier list.
And that releasing the wrong detail to the public too soon could jeopardize everything they've been putting together in silence. The LAPD didn't go to court unless they felt they were protecting more than just paperwork. They're protecting their strategy. They're protecting witnesses. They're protecting whatever evidence they've already connected to someone or more than one person. So you can feel the tone of this entire investigation shifting. I mean, they're definitely turning up the heat right now. And you can see that through their actions. This is a serious, targeted pursuit of accountability. And on the conversation of accountability, the LAPD deputy who's overseeing the investigators working on this case, he actually said, and I quote, "Accountability is coming. Our robbery homicide detectives have been working and not waiting for that decision by the medical examiner. They are going to get justice for Celeste Rivas." And then he said the following: "No one is off the table, including him." He's talking about David. So that is one of the strongest public signals we've heard so far in this case. Sounds like they're very confident in solving this. So now the tone from investigators isn't we're figuring things out. It's justice is coming. Someone will be held responsible. And anyone tied to this in any way is being looked at, including David himself. And through all of this, guys, it's very important to remember the heart of this entire case. A 14-year-old girl lost her life. A child should have had years ahead of her. Laughter.
Yeah,
memories,
this shit is crazy.
Dreams, growth, all of it.
I think this is one of the craziest
these
cases.
stories get so big.
I think this is one of the craziest cases I've heard in a long time, outside of, like, you know, serial killers like Ted Bundy and shit like that. Because this nigga was really dating a fucking 15-year-old girl, and at the time, I think she said it was like 13 or 14. I think it's fucked up as hell. Based off of what everybody has shown, I think this nigga did it. Off the evidence that all these motherfuckers have shown on TikTok and all these other sites, and the shit that this nigga that we reacting to has shown us, like, I think the nigga did it, unfortunately. I definitely think the nigga did it.